All right, greetings, family. Here we are again. It's me and Chris, and we're going to talk about, the name of this podcast is the transition from a shitarian to a breath. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to play a interview with Chris on a radio show. This is a radio show, or what is this, Chris? A news? What is this?
No, it's like a morning talk show over the radio, but they obviously have a live video also.
Yeah, live video. Okay, so it's only 3 minutes, family, and then we're gonna feature an article. And basically, one of the things Chris has revealed, and before we start, Chris, I'm just gonna share there's a perception in the Breatharian community, okay, of usually when you hear about it, and I'm not saying that this is wrong, okay. Let me see. There is boom. So the levels. So usually when you hear about Breatharianism, it's you go through these progressive stages, okay. And this is something that Chris really is. This is groundbreaking work, and this is not out of a book. You cannot find this out of a book, what Chris has done. And that's why it's so intriguing and it's so inspirational to hear, because the average person you meet, what do they say? Okay, you go from carnivore to vegan, right?
Or vegetarian.
To vegetarian, all right, vegan, all right. Then you go to fruitarian, raw vegan. Then you go to liquidarian. And then you basically go to, it's progressive stages. Now, I'm not saying obviously that this is the safe approach, right? Again, because everyone everyone has to do their healing in progressive stages for what they feel like is conducive to them. But what Chris has done was he basically went from a diet and mainly of energy drinks, candy bars, and pasta and bullshit, right? So, and with the urine, he just did it cold turkey and literally from this, let's just say it's this right here, straight to this. Now it took about 2.5 years, right? But he was on urine for all that time. And then he did his first series of dry fasts, and then he made the transition. It is a really interesting and inspiring story, because it's not something that you don't meet people, anyone really, that decides to do that. Because there's so much there's more misinformation about urine therapy than there is accurate knowledge. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's what I believe is, and again, this is Chris's personal experience, but from what my understanding is, I don't think he would have been able to transition that quick if he wasn't looping his urine. I don't think he would have. It seems like what fruits and what these supplements and whatever people use can do for years, it can take urine months to do, because you're looping so much of your own orthobiotic minerals and living DNA and stem cells and life elements. So it makes sense, Now, Chris, I do assume that were you abstinent of sex as well?
During that time, yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, because I know that semen retention and stuff, it is pretty much I know that's a big part of it too, because one thing from my urine fast, one thing I noticed too is when you're on semen retention, every time you pee, you actually see bits of semen in the urine, so we even lose bits of semen every time we pee. It's really interesting. So this is going to be a really good podcast here, and just to show how he went from this kind of, and just urine was a bridge that kind of just boom, just boom, right? So, Chris is about to talk, but what we're going to do, we're just going to get right to, Chris, I'm going to play the interview, okay?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
All right.
Christo knows all about drinking his own urine. He feels like Superman after he drinks his own urine, he tells everyone. So he's going to tell us how it started and all the benefits. Good morning, Christo.
Hey, Christo.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Very good. When did you first start guzzling your own piss?
When I first started, I did not guzzle it. You know, it was a bit tough at first to get over the mental block of being taught that it was a waste product. When I first tried it, I mixed a small amount of urine with a large amount of water.
Oh, okay.
And walked away from it. And I kept doing that until it was mostly urine, and then pretty soon I could just drink it down.
When you say you feel like Superman, what do you mean? Just explain that to me.
I have very high energy levels. I will be 50 in October, and I, no joke, do workouts that even 20-year-olds don't do. Very intense CrossFit. I run for hours. I'm strong. It's hard to get tired.
Do you have a girlfriend or anything like that? Do you have a partner?
I have a girlfriend. Yes, I do.
Oh, right. And what does she think? Does she know?
She does the same thing.
Oh, she does it as well.
Have you ever swapped and said, oh, you drink mine, I drink yours, or is it, oh, can you only drink your own?
We've done that. We've done it.
And I heard some people are washing their face and cleaning their eyes with it. Are you doing that, or are you just drinking it?
I do that as well. Yes, it works amazingly.
Does it?
Amazingly.
Have you had your glass of urine today, or when do you have it?
Many. First thing in the morning and all through the day.
Oh, so you don't have one now. You don't have one now to drink or anything like that.
I do.
You do. Oh, well,
yeah.
Well, feel free. Let's sit here with you while you drink it and see how we feel.
Mm.
I've only got water.
I've got water. Sorry.
And Christo, you've got a big glass of.
We got a guy in the background.
Cheers.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, before you go, it's my living water, and I call it my life force. And because it's my blood, every time I piss this out, it would be like pissing my life away because it takes energy to recreate that blood and that urine. So, anyways,
cheers to that, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
You really guzzle that, don't you?
Got a good gulp in there.
Yeah. It doesn't taste bad. It's, I have a very clean habit. I don't eat much. I eat fruit mostly.
That's just water, but imagine the sound if it was piss.
Imagine. I can only imagine.
You do it.
It's out. It's all gone.
Oh, drunk it all.
What a bummer.
I'm a poor entertainer. I'm sorry.
Christo, fascinating stuff. I don't know whether I'm jumping on board, but hey, we're a no judging
No
sort of
judgment
show.
at all.
Yeah.
One more time, guys. upfitness.com.
That's right.
I'm sorry, such a.
No, it's fine. You be a piss drinking, plugging whore. That's fine. I think it's fascinating. If you want to go and check it out, that's it. utfitness.com.
Yep.
Okay.
Dude, I gotta tell you, I was warned by lots of people from Australia not to go on that show. They said they're gonna tear you apart and they're gonna just insult you the whole time and laugh. They won't even let you talk, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey man, that's, that might be your thoughts on it, but that's not how I feel. I know it's going to go well. And you know what I did? I studied up on that host, the guy that did most of the talking.
Yeah.
I did some studying on him and read some stories and interviews that he had done just to learn what kind of a person he was. And I played to that during the interview. So I basically disarmed any, possible descent into becoming a big circus. They took me seriously, I think. I mean, they were laughing at stuff. I would have laughed at some of that stuff too. Before I knew about pee therapy, I would have laughed at it. Everybody who's doing it now would have laughed at it and probably did laugh at it or think it was disgusting when they first heard about it.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing, definitely, I actually only decided to when my buddy, the Breatharian brother, told me he went 6 months on it. I'm like, oh, word? What? So I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go try,
Yeah.
So you want to, Chris, you want to share your screen or with the article?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. See how quickly I can do that.
No, I'm the one that has to make you the host, so it's pretty Okay, change host to Chris. Yep. Okay, Chris, you're the host. You can share your screen.
Okay, and I click on the share screen, and I pick the screen, and then I share. Okay, can you see it? Article?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, where do I start here? I got a message. I got a message from my baby. Sorry, one sec.
or
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this article yet, but you all already saw the video. And I'll tell you what, ahead of my story, I'll tell you what happened by doing what I did. And I'm putting the cart before the horse, as they say. I gained so much confidence in myself by cleaning up my body. Not because of the looks, but because of how I felt. Because once you're able to fast on pee for long periods of time, and I started in early March 2016, and I went into October of 2016. During that time, and I'm gonna backtrack, but I'm kind of laying it out here. During that time, I was taking in, I'm gonna estimate somewhere between 95 and 99% of the total volume of what I took in was just pee. I would sometimes supplement with taste of a little bit of juice, like an ounce, little bit of juice. Not like I've done recently where I'll drink 8 ounces of juice, but I'm talking back then, I was hardcore. I was very serious because I knew I had to clean my body up. The first time I actually really fasted, was in 2008. I did 40 days, and it was that lemonade fast thing where you use fresh squeezed lemon juice, maple syrup, cayenne pepper, distilled water. That does wonders as well. I don't recommend it now because there's much better ways, and that's a pretty expensive way to do it too. Maple syrup isn't cheap, depending where you are. But in that time, even that 40 days that I did, I learned that our taste buds go back to what they were before, so that a carrot actually tastes good again, and not, it doesn't have to taste like a Cheeto or some kind of piece of candy. Our taste buds become desensitized.
Right.
So I had some experience 2008 with that fast, and I didn't plan 40 days. I just started doing it. I remember walking up, and you guys, whoever's listening here, I'm going to be throwing some tips out that you may remember and you might be able to use yourself. But one of the things I would do is everyone around me was still eating. And I would even say, and I'm talking about 2008 right now. And I was about 40 years at the time into the Gregorian false year calendar. Everyone around me was eating, and not only were they eating, but it seemed like my favorite foods that I had liked were being cooked every other night. Like in a week's time, all of my favorites that it would take a year to see on the table were all being made in that first week that I was fasting.
Oh, wow.
All my favorite foods, like enchiladas one night, spaghetti one night, I can't remember, some kind of noodle thing, just all kinds of stuff. But it's all stimulants. It all tastes great, man. It's the best drug on the planet, food. It's just so good tasting, but it hurts the body. Anyways, so what I would do is when the food was cooking or when it was done and everybody was grabbing their portion, if I felt really weak, I would walk over to the food. Probably a bad idea when you're weak, but I'm kind of weird. And I would get a towel, small towel, put it over my head and put my head over the pot and let all of the steam and the smell from the food go up into my nose. And I would just pretend like I was eating it. I had a fork in my hand, and I would make the movement like I was putting food in my mouth, but I wasn't. And then I would say, okay, that was good. And then I'd walk away. And I did that each time, probably for about a week. And after that, I didn't need to do that anymore. I was driven by fear of what I saw going on in the world at the time. I learned what was going on with war, with how the U.S. is it's like the central bank's bulldog, if you want to call it that. The military goes around the world and makes sure all the countries that have loans from the IMF are obeying and paying back and giving up their resources that they pledged as security for their loans. And we kind of talked about it. I'm not going to get into this. So anyways, at the end of that fast, my taste buds were back. I had lost a lot of weight, obviously. I shedded waste. I didn't lose weight. I shedded waste because I never owned that weight. I wasn't born with it. And it is waste because everything, all the visible fat that you lose is in the form of it's toxins. Fat forms to protect the body. It protects the body from kind of like an influx of toxins that you're taking in, and when the liver can't handle it, the body has to create fat to encapsulate the toxin that you brought in each cell. So, yeah, you were going to say something?
No. Oh, yeah. Chris. Actually, no. Go ahead.
Hey,
no problem.
Yeah, if you wanted to steer this back, man, because I start getting on little trails. But
No.
so basically,
Okay. So,
yeah.
when we're talking about when you smelled the pot, that was back when you were when you were 40, right? That wasn't when you did the urine fast yet.
No, I haven't. Yeah, I have not gotten to the urine fast yet. I just wanted to let people know that I have had experience prior to this jumping into this urine fast. However, I had a good 10 years of eating like shit. And I didn't stop eating meat because I kind of fell off. You know, I did really good and everything was going great and health wise. And I was I've never been a sickly kind of a person. I've always been pretty athletic, very athletic actually, even when I was 30 pounds over. But I would fast like once a year, maybe twice. And it was that same type of fast, that lemonade fast. And then 2016, okay, so that was more like 6 years between the two. I'm getting that wrong. In 2016, my daughter got married. And at the time I was as usual working too many hours. Using energy drinks like Monster and all that garbage, which is liquid crack in a can and should be, I mean, if they're going to make marijuana illegal, that stuff should be like heroin. I mean, it's terrible for you. But I was drinking maybe 1 to 2 cans of that a night. I would supplement it even with candy that I would nibble on just for the sugar. So I was just stimulating myself to try to stay awake with candy, sugar, drugs, basically. Drugs. And wedding time came, and I just remember feeling kind of crappy about myself, and very, very crappy about myself. And then I saw the wedding pictures, and that was just like the icing on the cake. The visual. And I looked and thought, wow, you look like shit. So the very next day or the next hours, or I don't remember how, it was less than a day after, I remember telling my whole family, I said, say goodbye to Mr. Fat. And everybody started laughing because I had said that before, like in 2008 when I did that 40-day, but I did it. But this time I said goodbye to that guy because that dude's doing it because he's not happy. You know, there's something deeper when you're like that, when you let yourself get like that. So, and I had a lot of things going on, dude. And the reason I'm going to talk, and this is very brief, but the reason I'm going to talk about this is I want people to know that I didn't just start doing this because, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to feel great. I don't want to be sick. Well, I really wasn't sick. I wasn't laid up or anything. But I did, I was feeling crappy. I wasn't feeling as good. And prior to that, my dad had died in 2012. And it was because he had a bunch of mercury in his teeth and his fillings that were leaching into his blood. And it started destroying his organs. And by the time it was figured out what was going on, it had already affected him. His brain had already atrophied. And I don't know that even that is not curable. I mean, that might even be curable. I do not know. But he was dying of what they called Alzheimer's at the time. And of course, since he had Alzheimer's, kind of hard to communicate, had some family issues with my sister. She was quote unquote, taking care of him. And I won't get into all that, but that was a rough period. And all of us had stood to get a huge, huge amount of money. We were all basically going to be millionaires. And what happened is I'm just going to say this, dude. I don't even care. It's despicable what happened. But my sister, so-called, I'll use that term loosely, and my so-called brother became very ugly. And they started working against me and the rest of my siblings to get us out of the will. And it was really weird. And I saw what was going on. And they, when I brought it up, my mom was saying, oh, you just want the money. You just want the money. And I said, no, I want you guys to stop saying my dad was a liar. Because they were trying to pretend that he didn't have anything. And I know he did. So I just said, you know what? Here, I'm going to prove I'm not lying to you. Take my name off the will. But I'm going to tell you right now, you guys are liars. And needless to say, that was it for me. I was definitely the black sheep at that point. And that happened in 2012. Then another thing happened after that with my business where there was a bunch of deception going on and guys were trying to screw me over buying my company. And that happened. And then my mom died 2017. That was later. That was after I started the fast. But basically, so in 2016, felt like crap. And when I decide to do something, I am not going to take the slow road. I'm going to do exactly what I know and what I think needs to be done, and I'm going to do it right there. I'm not going to eat one more donut. I'm not going to go and, oh, let's eat one more meal. I'm going to do it. And that's what I did. I just started doing urine therapy right then because I had experimented with and had been doing off and on urine therapy since 2014. And I did do a urine fast in 2015, but it wasn't anything like what I was about to do. And just so you know, when I started in March, I did not say to myself, hey, I think I'll fast until October. Can you imagine setting yourself up for something like that? I wouldn't have made it. I would have looked at that 7 months and thought, no way, the way I'm feeling. Because up front at the start, you don't feel good. Nobody feels good when they first start fasting. You feel like crap. You start gaining energy and you start realizing what's going on. But yeah, before I go on, Mark, did you have anything you want to throw in or ask or?
Yes. At
Okay.
what point, Chris? So you have family. So he just went cold turkey into it. He wasn't, the last long fast he did was 10 years before. Now, I have a question, Chris. When you first started,
I corrected it. It was 8 years before, but just to be, yeah.
Okay, so it's 8 years before. Now, Chris, what were the symptoms? Like, what was the worst? Like, did you really go through an intense healing cleanse?
And when you say intense, what do you mean by that?
But I mean, fevers, flus, like just like did you go through like massive migraines? I don't know, like just cleansing symptoms. Like what did you
Yes.
feel? Extremely weak, like so fatigued to where you couldn't move, or?
Yes. Well, not to where I couldn't move, but in the first week, I would say I went through the majority of the detox, where I had a day, I would say for about 12 hours. And if you're looking at this picture, just so people know, this was me in right before I did that, I believe. Yeah, this was in 2010, I think. Anyways, there's me looking not so good. So I'll leave that up as a reference while I'm talking. Maybe I won't. This one's better. Or you can look at my pee in a jar. How about that? Anyways, so yes, I had a day there where for about 12 hours, I had cold chills. I was sneezing. My bones hurt. And yes, I was laying down for most of that day. And I have it marked down. I don't remember which day it was. It might have been day 4 or 5, or I really don't remember. But I think some of the most hardcore detox is going to happen in the first week.
And were you you were drinking about all of it, correct? Like
yeah.
Question, Chris, did you
Yeah.
like, were there periods and times where you put it aside to not drink it, or just every time you had to pee you drunk it?
I drank it right away.
Like even
All
in
of
the middle of the night?
Yes. But I
So
usually didn't wake up in the middle of the night, because what I started to do is I started to let go of some of the, and this is a tip for people too, I started to let go of some of the excess into a big jug that I was saving for aged, that I had learned about. Yeah, so I wouldn't pee at night because I let go of some of the excess so I wouldn't wake up. Because I was waking up like every 2 and 3 hours, and didn't really like that.
So so you were waking up every 2 and 3 hours, and what did you do to stop that?
I would when I peed, I wouldn't drink it. I would put it into that big container to save. So I didn't put that water back into my bladder, basically.
Okay, so after, for example, after what hour? Like, was there an hour at night where you said, okay, I'm not going to drink my pee, I'm going to put it aside?
10 or 11.
Okay,
10 or 11.
10, and you drunk it the next morning?
Yeah, but I wasn't, you see, at first I was sleeping I was probably doing 7 hours average at night.
Okay.
So I get up pretty early. I go to bed kind of late, kind of a thing, But now, now it's even more, even less sleep now. But then I used to do 6, 7 hours a night, and it was perfect for me.
Okay, all right. So you basically, but you didn't waste any of it?
No. I saw that stuff as gold. I saw it as my blood, as a waste if I poured it away.
Yes, absolutely. And so now, at what point did you start to feel the energy?
I'm going to, well, after, and I would need to check, I have a bit of a kind of a diary, and I don't have it out, but roughly after about 4 days, I started to feel some energy coming back. And either way, every day of this thing, except for the one where I had the 12 hours of cold chills and the bones aching and all that, every day other than that one, I was doing some kind of exercise. I was going to the gym. I would hang from the bar. I'd do some pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, stuff like that. But after 4 days or so, I did start feeling increased energy. And then I started stepping up the workouts again, up to probably, I would say I didn't get really super strong, like how I talk about how I was running all the time and CrossFit. That was after more like 3 weeks. It was the first part of this, I was doing like 50-ish, 70-ish% of what I would usually do activity-wise. And when I say what I would usually do, I'm talking about the workouts I did when I was fat. I was about 35 pounds overweight. I weighed about one, and overweight is another misnomer. It's bullshit. But compared to what I weigh now, I was about 35 pounds heavier, and it was mostly fat. But some of that was also some of my muscle tissue, and even some bone, and even some other things maybe that, because it's not just fat that you lose during long fasts. You lose all of your cells that are aged, damaged, weak, toxic, are going to be shed by the body. It's just that the fat is the quickest one to go because all those cells are. The only purpose for those cells is to be toxin storage. It's storing your toxin.
To neutralize the toxicity, to protect the organs, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Chris, 3 weeks in, right? You feeling the energy. Did you keep putting it like, okay, I assume you felt so good that you just decided like, hey, I'm gonna continue, right? I'm just gonna keep going. Right?
Yes.
So did you put a time mark? Like I say, okay, I'm 3 weeks in, you know what, I'm gonna go another month. Did you say something like that? Or you just didn't put a time limit on it?
No time limits, never. I was determined to get at least 2 weeks in. That's how I felt at first, when I first started. But once I hit 2 weeks, I realized I could keep going easily. And just so everybody knows, I went 12 days where I didn't touch anything. The first 2 days, I believe it was, I sipped some distilled water. Just because at the very first I felt dehydrated, even when I was drinking pee.
Makes sense. Yeah, probably because so much toxicity.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it just you wanted more excess water, and as time went by. So this is very similar to what my close friend said to me when he went 6 months. It's very similar, But
Okay.
after that, after the beginning stage, he didn't drink anything else but pee. Didn't even drink water at all. Very similar. Right. So you were just strictly on pee. You didn't even need water. So even when you were working out, you didn't even sip any extra distilled water or anything?
No, I would drink some before I went into the workout, knowing that I was going to sweat a lot and knowing that I might feel thirsty for more pee. And I would just drink a decent amount before I went in, but I wouldn't drink too much because if you drink more than, say, 10, 12 ounces, and I'm speaking for me, this isn't for everybody else, it could be different, but for me, I'm going to say like a bottle size, like a bottle of drinking water. If I was to take more than that and guzzle it down, it would act as like a laxative and just run right through you. And, you don't want that when you're working out. So I would just take enough to where it actually felt like I was taking an energy drink after a few weeks. I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to say 3 weeks is when I really started getting my energy back. And I for taste, I was getting super bored taste-wise because, dude, urine gets boring. And it does sometimes taste weird, just to let people know. You're going to hit periods where it's like, what the hell is, like, what's that? It tastes really acidic, dude. And what it is, it's just the remnants of whatever cells were purged from your body. The water from that is used still. The toxic parts are all sent out the toxic channels through chute number 2. There are no toxins coming out in the pee. And I'm speaking mostly to people, and I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but I get this question all the time, and that's fine. But nurses know that your pee is completely sterile upon exit from the body. Now, if you have a urinary tract infection, that infection can be in the pee. That is true. But even if you were to drink that pee with the infection in the pee, once you run that through your body, it's going to be filtered out. and you're only getting it's not a concentrated amount of the infection. It's diluted by the water.
And can I just say, Chris,
Yeah.
just for people, now, just so you guys know that any toxins in urine, it's at a minute level, almost like if you guys ever heard of homeopathy is when you put a signature or the energy, a tincture of the disease, what you would call the toxin or the disease. And when you drink it, it causes an immune response, right? For the body to then look for the disease tissues and stuff like that. So urine has such a small minute of what you will call toxins, but it has a minute homeopathic effect. When you drink it and you let the urine sit under your tongue, the lymph nodes will study the urine because it's information. And it also, and it's, again, remember, what is blood? Blood is like forms of liquid crystal. It's living water, right? So when you take it in, it sends it's almost like the body then will start to upgrade the parts of itself. Because again, all of that came from the body. And just to say, family, 85 to 90% of the urine produced, right, from the kidneys goes right back into the bloodstream. Everybody in the universe is already keeping most of their urine. Okay, so go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So where were we at here?
Yeah, you was talking about how the taste and how the bitter taste.
Yes.
Was it really difficult to drink some days?
I will tell you, some of that stuff I dumped into the aged jug. Or the aging jug, I should say. Yeah, I just didn't even want to touch some of it. It was nasty. And it wasn't like a food nasty. It was like bitter. It was like I was already feeling kind of crappy. And then I would taste it and I thought, God, this tastes like lemon, straight lemon juice or something. I'm not into that flavor, you know, the hard, just squeeze straight lemon. I don't like that. And to me, it tasted like that. But it wasn't coming from a lemon. It was coming from something that the body had purged, but it wasn't toxic. It was just the flavor. And just some proof for people who are listening. I know there's a lot of people that learned under Dr. Morse, and I appreciate that a lot of people have really changed their lives by going to the fruit diet. I mean, there's no doubt. You know, the medical industry has lost a lot of patients because of fruit, because of what this guy Morse teaches. However, and I'm just going to say it like it is, he's either straight up lying about pee, or he is completely ignorant to what it is. And not just ignorant, but willfully ignorant, because he won't even look into it if he truly doesn't know. But I have a hard time believing that he does not know about it. And another, you know, statement I have to make, if you're going to claim health and you're going to tell people about health, you better damn well look like you're taking your own advice. And I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave it at that for that one. But what I'm about to say is, your pee being completely sterile, here's one proof of it. I've had people tell me, well, if your pee is sterile, how can they test for drugs? How do they test for heroin? Because heroin is toxic. Well, they can test for heroin and all the other drugs because they all have a biological source. They were all a plant at one time. There was some, you know, it came from somewhere. Poppies, that's where heroin came from. And when they're testing your pee, they're not testing for the drug heroin. They're testing for the poppy, for the derivative. And that's why guys who, I remember when I was in the military, pee tests would be coming up, and guys would accidentally or whatever, they would have a poppy seed muffin the day before, and they would test positive on their drug test because of it. So that's what I mean. It's testing for the natural derivative, the natural source of that drug, not the actual toxic resulting drug that they created in the lab. because that part goes out, number two, or parts of it are stored up in your fat as well. And here's another thing. When you're purging, I don't know all the chemicals that I took in all those years. Think about all the food, dude. You know what? I've never talked about this before, but here, this is a first right now. I've never even posted on this before. But just imagine the amount of drugs, literal drugs that you've consumed in your food that they call food grade, which, by the way, they can still spray your organic crops with food grade pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. So organic's not all that it's cracked up to be either. But the point is, all those drugs came into your system, hit your liver hard, your body created fat to protect you, and those fat cells are still holding on, if you haven't fasted, to those drugs. So when you're detoxing, your body already experienced what you're experiencing, and you're only experiencing a sliver of what your body had to go through when you ate that stuff. So when I hear people, I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to say it straight. Well, that's all you're ever going to get from me. So here goes. Don't bitch and moan about your detox symptoms, because you are the one that did that to your body. You did it, and your body had to take the brunt of it. Your temple that you did not respect, your temple my temple that I did not respect for so many years, I had to now experience just a sliver of what the body went through. So when I'm sitting there whining, oh, my head hurts, oh, I got the cold chills, oh, my bones are aching, my body's like, shut up. I already went through all this. You're barely even feeling a tiny bit of what I've already had to go through. So anyways, just thought I'd get that out of the way.
And it doesn't take as long to heal compared to the damage that's done for all those years.
Oh, man.
And I think you were able to do it so quick, at about 2.5, 3 years.
Well, it was quicker than that, and I'll explain it after. But go ahead what you're going to say, though.
Yeah, because you just didn't, you completely got out the way, and you did it for, you especially taking in only the blood. I mean, you're only taking in blood. You're not really having sex, so you're not wasting away your seed. So that's a much quicker way. You really didn't eat much for, such a long period of time. So how long did you actually, you said it wasn't as, 2.5 years. How long was it actually?
Well, the part where I lost my food addiction took me about 2 months.
Wow.
So I went from, and I was going to make a term more shitarian. I was a shitarian and went to liquidarian, I guess, or utarian, whatever you want to call it. Don't even need words, but I went to not needing food within 2 months. Went from eating 3 times a day, shit, snacks, candy, to not needing food within 2 months.
Wow.
And it's because I was looping the whole time. I was super strict. And when I say super strict, I'm going to just tell you guys, after about 2 weeks, I really wanted I just wanted to taste something. So I went to the health food store, and I had them squeeze some apple juice, and I just took about a tablespoon of that and put it in my mouth and let it sit there, and just pretended like I was drinking a whole cup, but I just let it sit in my mouth, and I drank it down. I drank that tablespoon down. Gulped that whole tablespoon. But basically, this is the kind of stuff I did every 10 days, 14 days, just to stay sane. And went through July like that, August, September. In October, the skies started clouding up. I was living in North Idaho. And once the sun started going away, it got really freaking tough for me. Really felt like the energy was going away. But I don't want to jump right to that yet. I did want to say that you were asking something, and I wanted to trying to remember. Well, basically,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just asked like how long, or when it came to like just continue, right? Just
Okay. Well, I think because I was still doing urine therapy, I was able still to go without food and drinks, but I was still drinking urine. So it's still a drink. And what I've come to find out is that even there are some parasites who live off just your pee. They can live off just your pee. So I
yes,
was,
we
yeah,
didn't get to that point yet.
no. So I wasn't fully cleaned out within 2 months. I was on my way. But
Yeah.
by the time I got to 2 months, I had no desire to eat. None.
Okay.
Truly lost the desire to eat.
So it's much more easier then, like to just kind of stick with the urine looping and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it got a lot easier. Plus, what I was able to do was inspiring the hell out of me. I mean, I had I used to do at my times where I was in shape prior to 2008, before I had fasted at all. I'd done the Atkins, I'd done some other things. So I had applied some willpower in different ways. Um, I did some pretty intense workouts even then. I was doing like 3 sets of 20 pull-ups. I would go up and down stairs, steep stairs of this air traffic control tower with a heavy bag, with an 80-pound heavy bag that I was carrying. I would do stuff like that just to train. And I don't know, people probably didn't know this, but when I was in the Navy, I was actually but I was trying for SEAL training. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Mark, but I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, basically, back then. So I was doing some things that did require discipline. So I wasn't like a couch potato kind of a guy, even though, check it out, couch potato. I was a soccer mom. No, that's insulting to soccer moms, man. But yeah, I was probably 30 pounds over right there and wasn't feeling good. But yeah, that was like 12 years ago. So,
And so sorry, Chris. So
no, go.
you were about to bring up something really interesting, and I really want to know about it.
Okay.
When the clouds came up and the sun started to go away, did you start to feel cold? Like, were you like cold to the bone? Like, how did you handle the heat?
At first, when I lost that weight, or I shed that waist right away, and I had dropped down into I was about 185 pounds when I started. And I dropped to about 150-ish, 150, 155. And yes, I did start feeling colder than I would have otherwise initially. But I found out that as I went on, my body really acclimated quickly to that. And I did not feel that anymore. In fact, I was much more adapted to heat and cold and large swings in temperature and all of it.
Okay, that's awesome. How you acclimated, wow. And,
yeah, I actually think that people are capable, and I will be capable at some point, of walking on ice with bare feet, walking in snow, all that kind of stuff. I know all that stuff can be done. It's just a matter of harnessing your cells, telling them what to do. You control them.
Right. Yeah, we've seen Wim Hof. We've seen people that not even breatharian per se did it with breathing exercises. So imagine what you're able to do. So just another question. So okay, when it came, we were talking about the cold, okay, the sun, and there was a question I had about sorry. Oh man, I hate when this happens.
Did it have to do with me still being dehydrated at 2 months? Or you still feeling like I needed to drink? Or about the sun going away, losing energy?
Yes. So yeah, you brought up losing energy.
Mm-hmm.
How did that, like, was it for a short period of time, or like how did you deal with that? Like at what point did you kind of, how did you deal with that?
Well,
You just kept.
yeah, what I did is in between while I was still doing the pee therapy, what I started doing is I was having a little bit more fruit. Instead of just walking into a store and grabbing, a couple grapes for the taste and then walking out, I was eating for free. It was funny. I just started eating a little bit more fruit. And I don't mean like how I see people put fruit on a plate and they're eating a bunch of fruit. I mean, I would eat, a cup of grapes, or I would eat it really, grapes. It was really just grapes. That was kind of my go-to. I didn't even like watermelon at the time. And there's another story behind that. But I didn't like watermelon. I would eat pears sometimes, but like a pear, I didn't go and grab a bowl of pears or something like that. But that's what I did. That stimulant helped to get me through. But what I discovered is I really didn't even need that after a while. And especially as we went into the next spring, March, April, May, June. And I was doing some interviews at that time. And then I started trying dry fasting. But I think I can make a separate podcast with that one. But I wanted to talk about this urine therapy and
Wow.
tell people
Yeah.
don't be scared of weird tasting pee. It doesn't mean that it's toxic. It just means that you're shedding cells that are what you're tasting is the flavor of what was in that cell or those cells.
Right. And whatever the body is producing to again, adjust you and perfect you and build the avatar, all those substances are in there. And this is something that I want people to understand. I know that when you listen to the average person out there, they're gonna bring up all these vitamins and supplements and stuff that you should be taking. Now, understand this. Mother's milk, when you're an infant, mother's milk has substances in it that have never been discovered. There's things in the body that don't have names and we don't even know exist. And it's not even important to even know about it. So mother's milk, when you look at mother's milk, semen, urine, they're all products of the blood. Okay? So when you're taking in the urine, you're using building blocks that are not in a textbook, haven't been discovered by your favorite expert scientist who you worship. Okay? This is not something, again, and it's something that's so specific to you in your body that no one else can really concoct and remember, your body secretes things based on even temperature, time, the moon energy, whatever it is. So how do you create something so specific and, outside of the body doing it? So it's just, again, how the only reason Chris was able to do this was because of his knowledge, his self-knowledge, and his trust. He had a trust in his own body. Mm-hmm. He knew it was love.
Yeah.
So Chris, going back, I'm sorry, you around the time when you started to feel like you were losing energy and you started to eat a bit more fruit, or we could say grapes, and you really didn't eat, when you ate the grapes, you just ate what, like a small handful? Or
yeah, and I was still doing I was still going a week or at least a few days with nothing. I wasn't like eating regularly. I wasn't taking fruit regularly. I was still fasting on urine most of the time.
Okay, so you think it just was maybe to satiate yourself, maybe?
I think it was a stimulant. I think the sugar from the fruit was like taking in pieces of the sun, basically. And
okay.
it was stimulating the body, my system somehow.
Interesting.
Which I did not need, but for me, I felt like I wanted. I didn't feel the need. Like I wasn't hungry for grapes. I just didn't want to feel, I think, and I'll tell you, this is another thing, okay? See, it gets so personal because I'm trying to include as much information as I can without giving out my whole personal life. And I'm not going to give out my whole personal life, but I'll just tell you that I was going through one of the hardest times of my life while I was doing this.
Wow.
Really, it was just, and I've been through some hard stuff, like as a kid, violent home. Won't get into
Wow.
that, but basically what I was going through even during this time was really, really emotionally almost, it would have, I'm going to tell you, it would have possibly destroyed me if I didn't take care of myself. And
Wow.
I can tell you that some of those times where I felt like the pee tasted acidic and like lemon flavored and just like shitty was when I was depressed. That's what
Wow.
happens. That's what happens. So if you're fasting, if you're doing, and I can tell you during those times, I was not healing. When I was depressed, I was not healing. Now my pee was dredging my body of sediment the whole time, no matter what. But as far as the real deep, complete healing of everything, the bad, negative feelings, depression, whatever, will cause you to counteract your healing benefits because of the acidic pH that you create. And because I was looping all the time, I was drinking pee every 10 minutes, or less, carrying a bottle around with me. Nobody would suspect what it was. They probably just thought it was apple juice. And quite honestly, I didn't give a crap. But the pee tells you where you're at immediately. It tells you immediately how your body's doing at that very moment. Because your liver filters, your kidney processes, and then the excess gets dumped into your bladder. And that happens every second, every split second. So, and you were talking about blood, Mark. You were saying, because we're basically drinking our blood, but I'll take it even a step further. And I know you know this. It's just, this is how we tend to say it is, we're drinking our blood. But we're drinking our blood, but even better, we are drinking our filtered, highly filtered blood, because blood, what I'm starting to discover, is just a conduit, is just it's a way for the cells to dump the trash. They dump it into the blood, and the blood carries it to the liver, and the liver filters it out. So we're not just drinking our blood, we're drinking plasma ultrafiltrate, and I know you know this too, but it's even more, it's highly, highly filtered, even better than blood, the pee.
Wow. Yes, it's clean. It's a derivative of the blood. It's cleaner than your blood. Cleaner.
Yep.
And so Chris, you said something that was interesting. You was drinking it every 10 minutes. And my friend, when he went on his 6-month journey, probably longer than that, but he went 6 months only on pee. He talked about how he was actually peeing about every 15 minutes almost. So he was peeing so much, and he was drinking like it was apparently the more you drink, the more the body produces. Was this a situation you had?
Yeah. So here's the deal with that. When you have fat on your body, initially that extra urine is coming from that fat, from those cells, because they're mostly water, as you know. So as your body's destroying the cells, it's keeping the water, and that water ends up going through your system, and eventually it ends up in your bladder the same way. And you end up peeing it out. So that goes on. But then you reach a point where you have no visible body fat, and you're sweating. And like in my case, I'm running, I'm working out, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm still increasing volume. Then and I have no fat on me. And I'm thinking, where in the hell is this coming from? And what I realized is that's when I realized that the body pulls water from the air. And that was probably, I'm going to say that was late 2017. Before, man, I remember the sun being out. So I'm trying to, maybe that was the following spring. Okay, you know what? I think that was early. No, that was early 2017. Sorry, because I started the fast March of 16. October of 16 is when it got cloudy. I started getting down. Yeah, it was early to summer of 2017 when I realized that my body was producing water from the air. And that's when I started doing some more research or some research on breatharianism.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And you were drinking your pee every, like, how often?
Up to all the way up through all the time. I was drinking it all
Like
the time.
literally, like how much times per hour?
Oh, geez. It depended on what I was doing, and if I wanted to save some, I'd put it in a bottle. But I'd say 3 times an hour.
Wow.
If I thought I was going somewhere or thought I was gonna not be able to do it, I would pour it into a bottle that I was saving, pee in. But
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because he said it did actually get quite annoying.
yeah,
He
it
was peeing.
does.
He was peeing so much he had to keep going to the bathroom. And again, family, he is also food free. So it's interesting. I didn't even know Chris yet, and I already knew someone that did the same thing Chris did. Okay, so that's why I was so intrigued with his story. And it's very similar. So both of them do not know each other, and he told me the exact same thing Chris said. Chris ain't lying. He's not fucking lying. He told me every 15 minutes he had to pee. And he had got annoying. It kept producing. He said the energy levels was through the roof.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, I said, do you still drink it? He said, no, not really, And he said, you don't have to anymore. And then it's very similar to what Chris says about, nah, he don't need it anymore. So it's damn near exact. And this is, and Chris, I don't think you even understand. You don't even know this guy.
No, I don't.
And here I am listening to you like, wow, this is it's almost like dead on. So that's why, and again, I'm glad that I'm the one able to talk to you on this podcast and be connected to tell people I have a friend as a yogi, breatharian, that tells me the same experience,
Wow.
And I just couldn't, I was amazed at it when I saw him posting on Facebook. He was the only other guy. Really?
Are you talking about when I was posting?
When you were posting on Facebook, this other guy, this other guy is completely underground. He don't even take pictures. You see?
Well,
so,
I went way above the ground for some crazy reason.
Well, everyone different, bro. Everyone have a different mission.
Exactly. And dude, I'm actually, nothing happens by accident. When the intuition leads and you follow it, nothing happens by accident. And you having this experience with this other person who I'm interested to meet someday, possibly.
Yes.
It's interesting that we happen to be on a podcast and this guy. I didn't know that I sounded that much like him, but that's interesting to note.
Yeah. How we talked about the 6 months and, and peeing every
dude. And 6 months and I did 7. I didn't plan. It happened that way. It's kind of really, I'm just kind of blown away right now thinking about that. He is now I started researching Breatharianism even more when I realized that I myself was producing water from the air. That's when it got really interesting.
Yeah, because now you're experiencing it for yourself, right?
Yes.
How you starting to see, okay, well, I'm self-sufficient. But the thing is, one thing that should be inspiring for people that listening to this, and you're going to see this around the planet, the greatest addiction in this time, in this stage of Aquarius, okay, is that we all have become addicted to healing without actually ever being healed. We have come addicted to the detox. Let me get the full body detox. Let me get the supplement. Let me get this. Let me get that. And we realize that we only detox to retox, and we stay in this cycle.
Mhm.
When you listen to people like Chris, my friend, and a few people that really kind of got to the self-sufficiency, they actually allowed, and he was the first guy to tell me this, by the way. He said, what about when you're healed? He said, you listen to people talk about healing all the time, but what about when you're detoxed? And of course, your body is resilient. It's always going to be like detoxing to some extent, but I'm talking about the detox of the self-harm, okay, to the point where it cannot be self-sufficient. That's what I'm talking about, okay? To the point where you're detoxed. That is, which is a birthright, okay? But, again, we were born into, cults, different forms of cults. And we never really felt what it felt to feel sober. We are always drug addicts, so we didn't really know. For example, family, if you know a person that's been drunk their whole life, just drinking alcohol, that person wouldn't really know reality. You wouldn't really see reality too clear if you were drunk. So you have to understand that all of us have been mainly drunk and stimulated. And the fact that what we call our true nature has become esoteric. We've made these things into supernatural lingo. And I think it's actually a part of an agenda as well with the English language to make this a cult and to make it seem so supernatural that it's out of our reach. I don't believe none of that bullshit anymore. I believe that this is just natural, the true nature. Think about it, family. The things that we say are deep and occult, isn't it just the things we naturally supposed to do? The things that we master, isn't it just the mundane things? For example, like from what you think, what you eat, how you carry yourself, your attitude about life, all these personal choices you make on a day-to-day basis. We don't necessarily see that is our alchemy and our mastery, but we've never allowed to the divine intelligence, nature, God, okay, the omnipresent force, to bring us back to purity. But as of now, you can see that healing has now, being in a constant state of healing is almost euphoric. But will you allow, like what Chris did, my friend, and a few people that we know? And again, it's not just about being food free. You can eat from time to time, right? Everyone different. But what about being healed? And I think when Chris, when you started to look into breatharianism, that was another level now where, okay, well, this water is coming from somewhere. This water is a secondary form from a primary form.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say a couple things about, if you were done with that thought, I was going to say a couple things here. Okay. Yeah. One, the idea of becoming food free. It happens when you practice being food free. After you complete your healing, that's when you get into your, okay, I'm going to eat every other day or whatever you want to do. And I don't mean eat shit. I mean, you're eating very pure, good food, like the best you can have, which is raw, which is fruit. There's tons of stuff you can do with fruit. It's unreal. And with just raw food in general. But you don't get to the point of realizing that you don't need food or water by eating. You have to go long periods of just regular fasting, water fasting, even smoothies for a while, for months, just do smoothies or just do juice, to get that addiction of food out of you, just to kick that addiction. So, and well, it's not just the addiction too, but it's the clearing of the body of the low level, weak parasites that feed from the trough, that have been there with you, eating your pizza for you and your hot dogs and whatever else. And as soon as those parasites are gone, then you're on another level of working on parasites. You feel a hell of a lot better, but you still have parasites on another level. And these parasites live off certain foods and even healthy foods. And then you really have to fast from food just to get rid of those. And then your body's now cleaner. If you've been doing urine therapy or distilled water, or and there's some protocols to this, but I'm speaking in general. Those are the things that get the sediment out of your body, that clear the colon. And once that's done, you don't have those cravings anymore, those strong cravings for drinks, for liquid in your body, because your body is then at an equilibrium. It's hydrated. It's just that we dehydrate ourselves with food all the time. And the body has to deal with that. So that's why the cravings come for water. But when we take in water, we're literally drowning our cells. And that's another podcast. There's a lot, man. There's a lot to talk. It's like trying to do a biology class in one podcast here. But basically, when you start cleaning your temple, your skin will glow. You'll look better. Depending on the person, your skin will be smooth. I'm just going to say, and I've said this before, and I'm not trying to brag about it or anything, but I'm 51. I've lived in deserts, dry climates, hot climates, surfs, salt. I've surfed a good most of my life. And my skin is smooth. It's smooth. Like I'm a kid. It doesn't have that older kind of saddle, leathery kind of a look to it. And I attribute that to the body destroying old skin cells and replacing them. And that's what your body does when you don't eat, but it has to be an extended period. That's the thing. There's no shortcut. You can't just start dry fasting and you're going to be a breatharian. It just doesn't work that way. Your body is filled up with sediments that need to be cleaned out. So yeah, I was going on about how the body gets cleaned up using urine therapy. And I think maybe I won't get too deep in the breatharian thing right now, because then that would just be a whole other, that's a separate podcast. I think this is mainly talking about urine therapy. But like you were saying, it's a healing modality. Urine therapy is a healing modality. I don't see it as a lifestyle. I see it as a lifestyle in the fact that we can use it to heal things when we need to. But I don't see it as something where I need to keep drinking my pee all the time. Because honestly, if I'm in the proper state of being and I'm clean, then I don't need all that hydration. I don't need to pour water inside. And I'm better off not doing that, because if I'm mostly in the quote unquote dry state of not drinking liquids and not eating, then all of the parasites are suffering and getting kicked out of my body. But if I'm drinking pee, there's a level of parasite that survives off of that. And I know it, because even after my first 5, I can't remember how many hours, but it was like at the end of the 5th day, even after that dry fast that I did, taking aged urine, I purged a bowl of small looking earthworm looking parasites.
Wow.
That they lived in me through all that fucking hardcore shit that I did for over 2 years.
And 2 years of mostly urine.
That's right. Over.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, bro, you mean to tell me 2 years where you actually used over 90% of your urine?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes. And I still had parasites in there, because they were the toughest ones. They could still live with that water, with our pee. And if you think about this, these are the parasites that live off your body, that live in your body. Some of them don't need food. The food ones are the easy ones to get rid of. It's when you start really getting cleaned up and you're fully clean that all those other parasites are gone, and the ones that are left over are like the boxers. the trained, they're trained, they're tough, they can hang, until you deprive them of everything. And the body will not take care of those parasites. The body fights against those things. So as soon as you don't, it's like if I was drinking pee, it's like pouring water on a garden and just giving water to everything. Even the things that you don't want to be growing in your garden are going to grow. But when you stop putting the water in there, your body allocates it like a irrigation system only to the cells, only where the water's needed.
Okay, yeah. So the overhydration that takes place is, to some extent, that still kind of throws off the homeostasis, because it's like, because, again, the overhydration of the water, remember we spoke about it, I think, in another podcast, how the electrical content, you see, the chi energy, the cosmic energy, electrical content is diluted, and then this can actually make way from even a dense energy that's probably still powerful in the sense of its adaptability, but that it could make do with that excess water. Because why? Anything that you do not need is a toxin. It was to a point now where you clean yourself up, and then you intuitively, this is the thing, intuitively knew, where all this water coming from? Let me look into this. And then you intuitively, it's like, okay, well, let me just do dry fasting. And then that's now got to the point where, okay, wow. So that was just a tool to get out levels of excess toxicity.
Yep,
and
that was June, July 2018 when I started the dry fasting. Over 2 years after.
Amazing that you kept that discipline. But again, you said after 2 to 3 months, it wasn't really that difficult because you weren't really hungry,
I was
like
not,
that.
dude, I truly had zero hunger. I had I made it a practice. Even during that time, I was walking into stores, into all my favorite health food stores, walking past all my favorite stuff, picking it up, looking at it, reading it, realizing a few things like, that's not as good as I thought it was for you. Stuff like that. Making videos, making clips on my Instagram about some of the stuff I saw in stores. If you guys check out the Instagram, it's I'll post a link, but I have some videos that I posted where I was walking through stores making comments on different products and things like that. But I would just walk in, look at all my favorites, and walk out. I didn't have to buy anything because I did not crave any of it. I didn't care. It was still the liquid that I was addicted to.
And just think of the times you needed it and the amount of money, you spend it on it. And I'm sure everything changes after that. You look at everything in the store, and one, you probably was thinking that already because urine is free. It ain't like you had to buy urine. So, but it even got to the point where I know that I'm going to feel that one day, but I'm just trying to empathize with you, where you literally walk in the store and you see people buying stuff and they're talking about the benefits, what it does and all that. And, but the funny thing is, it's crazy because it's like, I get a knife, I stab myself, I buy some peroxide, I heal, or I clean it up and I put on a Band-Aid, and then I brag to you about how the peroxide is so good at cleaning the wound. But then I make it a habit where I stab myself again, and then I get the peroxide. And I'm like, wow, like this peroxide is really working really well, And that's how you start to see that the things that we buy represents a cycle of choices. You keep coming back to it, and it's just, that's why this story here is so fascinating. And I think that as the years go by, a lot of people, even years from now, is going to be listening to this podcast, and they're going to be like, what the, like, wow, really? This guy really did it. And he did it from a shititarian.
Yeah.
He didn't do the progressive stages that are recommended by quote unquote, from people. It's like he just did it, and his own body helped him through. I definitely can say that your blood work helped you through, bro.
I was driven in part by a lot of what was going on in my life too, in fairness. I was very determined to not need anything from anybody. I had, I'm not going to say lost again. I'm going to say that a lot of people that were quote unquote friends were not friends anymore at that point. And I really just, I just felt like I didn't need anything and wanted to prove it. And I really wanted to prove also that we didn't need food. And I'll throw another thing out there to you that inspired me. I've always felt, and people know this listening to this podcast, I know, where your heart almost hurts for other people when you see oppression going on and things going on. And you feel it, and it's natural to feel it. And I always feel like, man, what can they do? They have nothing. What can I do? I feel helpless to help. And really, knowledge of self, that's what we need. That's what helps, is knowledge of self. Because everything you need is within. And this physical proof of it that we've been talking about incessantly for the last, I don't know how long this podcast is so far, but we've probably been going for about an hour now, I would guess. It's all within. Everything we need is within. And once I realized that I could live with no food even, I didn't know about the water part yet for myself. I had heard it, but I didn't know yet, so I wasn't going to start talking about it. Once I knew I didn't need food, I realized just how powerful we really are. And I also realized that the poorest person in the world could be the healthiest person in the world. Even though we're told that you need all these vitamins and all these supplements, and somehow only us Americans and Westerners can afford it, not poor people all around the world, or the poor people here in the U.S. There's poor people everywhere, but I mean, it's different levels of poverty. But all that stuff is BS. We don't need any of it. And pee is free. And the cool thing about pee, nobody can exploit it. Nobody. What are they going to do? Sell you a urine therapy kit? And how much could that possibly cost?
The integrity is, you can't, even eating a shitty diet, it's still clean.
Yes.
The integrity of it can never be tampered with. And you start to see that, it's like what you said, when you look at the problems of the world, and we're going to spread this message across the world, it's different when, you're looking at, when missionaries, they go, let's help feed the poor, let's do this. And we did have a talk in the last podcast about how, they would donate food, rice and stuff to Haiti and stuff like that. And this rice it was kind of a pandemic because everyone got lazy. They just kept eating the rice and they weren't leveling up. And then they talk, but, we need to get the kids clean water, and we need to get them clean water. And what about if the whole family was looping their urine? What about that? And then you spread this message, and you start to realize that, wow, at first I thought I needed a lot of money, or I needed a particular type of expertise, or I needed to be some fucking breakthrough scientist to create some invention no, none of that is necessary. None of it.
Yep.
And the power of applied self-knowledge. And I just want to say, bro, good fucking job, man. You don't know, dog. You have, just from this one podcast, you sharing your story, this is going to change so many lives. So many
Wow,
lives.
bro. Wow.
Just think about that. I'm proud of you, bro. We, on behalf of humanity, okay? I just gonna speak on behalf of humanity and the people that are gonna listen to this and really get value from it. I'm gonna speak on their behalf, on my behalf, and on my friends' behalf, right? We're proud of you, man. Good job.
Oh, thanks,
Good
brother.
job. Yeah, you definitely, like, you know, you deserve it, bro. And I'm gonna follow suit. And I'm gonna tell you one thing. When I link with you, you know, and you know, because I want to do it, but I want to do it more in a place where I have my own space, you know, like,
For sure.
yeah. And just listening to you, and when I get to that point, I could only see myself doing one thing: lighten up this motherfucking world. That's all I see. I'm talking about. You could call me a reptilian fucking slanger or whatever.
Slayer.
Slayer, yeah, whatever. But and what I mean by that is that you have broken free, and you show people that there is no system. We just had a belief in something that we just had a belief in it, man.
That's right.
And again, when you went dry and you started laughing to yourself, like, wow, they really tricked me, man. Like,
Yeah.
they really got me. I can't believe how simple it is to be balanced, to be happy.
And brother, I cried too. I cried.
Wow.
Because I realized, and I mean, I really cried, like I wept. Like, I felt all of this joy. It's hard to explain, man. It's like a pouring of emotion came out of me when I realized that we had been lied to about this, because this is the empowerment, man. This is what has been used to oppress humanity. And if people just kept this to themselves and hid away, I want people to hear it. I want people to know. You got to tell people about this and let them try to free themselves. Most people are not going to do it. Sadly, I'm just saying. That's probably a bad way to manifest. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, realistically, it's a tough thing. But a lot of people are going to, and when they do, they're going to be free, and they can't be controlled anymore. Whoever's listening, I'm on a sailboat right now, and my neighbor got some rigging for his boat, and he was showing it to me. So sorry, I didn't.
No problem. You know, I'm really interested when I decide to really go for that period of time on urine. I'm interested to see how my energy cultivation practices, my qigong, my meditation, my pyramid meditation. I'm interested to see, how it intensifies as, so anyway, Chris, I pretty much, I got work first thing in, actually 2 a.m. So, trading Forex, by the way. So it is my work. I'm not clocking in with,
right.
And this was a great podcast. And I know that this is going to reach out to so much people over the next 10 years, because from the year 2020 to 2030, there's going to be so much people that desire one thing, and that's sovereignty.
Yep.
True sovereignty. And I'm so glad, I'm so proud to be a part of this time podcast, I'm proud of it. Yeah.
I'm happy that we've connected like this. And this whole sovereignty thing, it's still a fact. I don't care what people say. You are in a physical reality right now. And while you are, this body is the foundation of it. And the first thing to do is make this thing sovereign. And if you're still taking drugs, if you're unhealthy, you're a slave.
Absolutely. You heard that. You heard that. All right. So, Chris, once again, thank
Hey,
you.
I want to say one more thing. I'm going to
Yes.
talk about the Breatharian stage of this. I'm actually going to make a separate podcast. I've got 6 Patreons now who pledged, which is really cool. And it's like $5 to $10 a month. But
Wow.
I'm gonna make a video after this that talks about the Breatharian portion of this whole experience. And I'm going to bring up some stuff I probably haven't talked about before. And I'm posting that video just to Patreon for the people that have pledged. So I'm just throwing that out there. If people are interested at all, I have it. It's as low as $5 a month. It's it's 10, whatever. And there's other levels for other things, but I'm not trying to be a salesman. What I'm saying is I'm done with Facebook robbing everybody of their energy, including me, and running ads and censoring us and telling us what to do. And I really just want to tell them to F off, So this next video that I do is going to be a Patreon only. So that I'm just saying, just throwing that out there. But I hope that what we talked about today has caused some people to think that, hey, this guy went from, and I'm not recommending people go from shitarian to liquidarian, but I'm just saying, it's been done because I've done it.
Yes, that's all. That is all. And on free fluids, free of charge.
Exactly.
Good job, bro. And, family, really hope you guys, enjoyed this podcast. It is July 30th in the alleged year 2020. And this is just the very beginning, baby. We just getting started.
Just getting started.
All right. You guys have a good night. And Chris, I'll I guess we'll talk tomorrow or later on in the week, All right.
Sounds good, brother.